Hi Liz, thanks for coming to see me today. Just before we start, I have sent through a couple of documents around the confidentiality of this session, and I just wanted to know if you had any questions around that or if you were happy with everything that you had read in those documents.
Yes, thank you for sending it through. All makes sense to me. Signed, returned via email. So, yep, no problem.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that. So again, thanks for coming to see me. Why are you here today? Can you tell me a little bit about what's happening?
Well, thanks, Sal. Sally, what do I refer to?
Sally.
Okay, fine. I have had a tricky couple of months. I've recently separated with my partner of 7 years, and I now have the majority of the custody of my 5-year-old daughter.
Right.
So I have been in a stay-at-home kind of position since she's been born, basically. So I need to get back to work. I do actually have a permanent part-time government position, but because I'm now a single mother, I have a few questions which I'd love to talk through with you because I need to make a bit more money.
Yeah. Right.
So situation's changed, but you know, I do have this role, so I'm eager to talk to you about it to see what I need to do to sort of get ahead, but also manage my life.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been a very difficult time over the last few months for you.
Look, it hasn't been great. I've got great friends, great support system, but ultimately life's short, so I've got to make the most of it, which is, you know, again, why I'm seeking advice, because I just want some guidance about my next steps, just to make the most of it. So, you know, life's short. That's
probably a good idea.
Yeah.
In that, you know, you want to be able to maximise what you're doing and also enjoy it as well. So you've just started back at your permanent part-time job.
Yeah, I've actually just
right?
only been back a week. So the job was on hold for me, which is amazing for A, a woman, and B, a single mother now, to have had that role to return to. It's actually only 3 days a week, so it's permanent part-time. So, but I'm, you know, the role's interesting, but it's only part-time, but for me right now it's great, but I would like to talk a bit more about what's next, because 3 days might not be enough for the income that I need to support my new life.
Sure, okay. So can you tell me a little bit about the job that you're doing now, and then we can think about whether there's possibilities around that. But what's the role that you've actually got now?
So I have a background in design, but I'm sort of jack of all trades, master of none. So I studied visual arts and then I went on to do graphic design. So I've worked in arts administration for a long time, and the role is at State Library of Queensland, and previously I worked in their design library, which is now a redundant department. So I've come back to a role that's new, so I'll be running an architecture festival.
Right.
So that's...
Well, that sounds interesting.
It will be great. It's fantastic. Yeah. So it's a week-long program that will happen every June, and my new role will be overseeing partnerships within the design community in Brisbane, Asia Pacific.
Fantastic. So it being a new role, you are happy with the role that you're going into?
Oh, look, and this is where women in our situation, well, I don't know what you do, Sal, but like for me, I'm grateful for the job. I don't know if the work's going to be rewarding or interesting. It's government, so it's very bureaucratic, but I have taken into consideration things like superannuation and paid sick leave and paid holidays and flexible working conditions.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds a little bit like you want to work out whether or not that's going to be an area that you want to stay in, or whether or not you might potentially look for something different if it's not sort of fulfilling what you hoped in this new role. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I don't want to just be grateful for my position. I would like to work out how I can extend my skills going forward, because I suppose it's my time now, so I don't want to, the next 10 years I've got to make it count. So I do, I either to extend within the organisation perhaps, or to look for other roles.
Right.
So I just wanted to sort of map out, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan to work out how I would put that into place, because I've been out of the workforce for a while. So
right. So it's really looking for something that's going to be fulfilling. Is that right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
but also that meets your financial needs in terms
Yes.
of the fact that you're now on your own with your daughter,
Yes.
and making sure that you can have a life that is fulfilling as well as a career that is fulfilling as well.
Yes. Am I looking for a needle in a haystack? I don't know.
So are there any other areas that you're interested in working in, or is this something you want to stay on this particular path in arts administration?
Yeah,
or
that's a good question. I did, before I had this job, I also had a business. So I had, I suppose, what everyone calls a side hustle now. So I had a design business in homewares and body products and lifestyle kind of business. So I closed that business when my daughter was born, but I am thinking maybe that could be a good idea to reinstate something again to balance out the finances, but also because my role is quite administrative, it would be nice to have something that was more hands-on and creative.
So you do really enjoy that creative side of things as well as being, somewhat interested in the administration side as well.
Absolutely, but the art side of it and the making doesn't always make the money. So I'm in this, which a lot of people in the arts are in, but my situation is perhaps a bit more unique because I have to provide for my daughter now, not just for myself. So a wish and a like and a, what do they call it? A want and a need. I need to balance those things.
Right. And so I guess you're maybe at a point where you're thinking, do you potentially stay in the role that you're doing and maybe try and manage that, but you might need to find another way to make a little bit more money?
Yes.
Or is it potentially something that you may look to go, have you got capacity to go back to work more days, or is it, would that be a little bit of a juggle, do you think?
Well, that's sort of trying to talk to you about maybe a staggered approach. So perhaps working full-time will be too much and tip the life over, and maybe having a side hustle would be manageable because I could work within hours that suit me of an evening, perhaps, so they're not standard working hours.
Yeah, sure. So it sounds like you've got a lot to consider, and but the good thing is that there's lots of options for you available at the moment. So it's just working out, I guess, where you get the fulfillment from, but also what's going to see you be financially secure, so that you know and you're not worried about providing for yourself and for your daughter.
Yes.
With the side business, can you tell me a little bit more about that and what do you sort of have a vision for how you might restart it, or is that something you haven't got to just yet?
I have been giving it some thought. So it used to be a bigger business. We had 250 stockists. We had a small warehouse. I don't think that's the right approach for my life right now. Even getting, picking and packing, I've sort of downsized it a bit to just being able to manage it from home without a dispatch centre or staff, essentially, because if it was just me and without a business partner and splitting the profits, it would be reasonably profitable, I imagine.
Right. And do you see that being a little bit more manageable for you right now too, in terms of managing working part-time and having your daughter as well?
I think so. I think that might be the way that I move forward without overcommitting myself, and it might give me that balance I was talking about earlier. But I just have to manage the scale of that, so that I suppose both of the jobs have to be managed. But perhaps that's something, because I am interested in like a small step and then a larger one and another one. So perhaps I could try both and see what worked for the next year to 18 months, and then maybe look to take on as my daughter progresses through school and gets a bit older and a bit more independent, maybe I could look to let one go down or one go up, but at least I've got two things happening.
Sure. So I'm assuming if you were to start the business again, you've obviously done it before, so you've got the skills and you kind of have the contacts and stuff, I assume. Is that right? Would it be easy enough to start it
I've
up
kept
again?
all of the contacts. They're all locally made. I wouldn't be making anything offshore again. Again, with that scale thing, I'd keep it manageable. So all of the products that would make would be made locally, and not in quantities that aren't overwhelming to invest in either.
Right. So